Hey, now listen up, I gotta tell the child that our friend Dave, he's got a podcast as well. He's digging deep in the world of Formula One, uncovering facts. From Monaco to Silverstone, he knows them all. The fastest laps, the big crashes, he won't let them fall. He's got the stories that'll blow your mind, obscure facts and legends, it's one of a kind. So join the race, buckle up and let it begin. Dave's got the knowledge, he's got the secret within. Tune into the podcast, let your engine ignite. Racing facts unleashed, it's gonna be a wild ride.
Hello, everybody, and welcome to the Grid Talk podcast. I will shuffle across, so I'm actually on the screen. There we go. That's a lot better. And as you can see, Wajid is with us again. Hello, Wajid.
As always, I'm a staple here.
Yeah, he's like this. He's like when you get ants in your house.
Be polite.
It doesn't go away.
Be polite.
No, true. To be fair, I did ask somebody else to come on a podcast in the future, and they said no. So at least you come on.
How are you feeling?
A little bit sniffly. So if you can hear me breathing through my nose, feel free. I've just realised you don't need that banner on just yet. Well, it's going to come on in a minute. Across the bottom of the screen will be a reminder of the Drivers' Championship points so far in the Formula One World Championship. We're here to talk about the Emilia Romagna Grand Prix, or if you want to give it its full title, and it's going to be here somewhere.
Hello. Sorry.
That's okay. That's
people,
fine.
People don't respect the podcast.
Probably don't even know it's happening. Right, let's have a look here. I want to get this full name right. So it's the Formula One MSC Cruises Gran Premio del Maiden Italy. Why we suddenly go to English there, I don't know. Emilia Romagna 2024. There we go. And that's the end of the podcast because we don't have time after that title. But yeah, first of all, before we do that, we will go through some of the news which we've seen come up lately in Formula One. So I think the first bit of news I can think of off the top of my head would be the obviously we've got Lando Norris now a Grand Prix winner. Thank you very much. We have also got a bigger clampdown going back to Miami. We've got a bigger clampdown by the FIA on penalties for cutting circuits and doing a K-mag, as it's now renowned as. Wajid, do you think it was needed?
Not really. I think we said a lot about K-Mag's driving and everything at Miami. I just feel like it's all reactionary based off what people said online and what Twitter said, rather than anything the FIA or the stewards wanted to do. To be perfectly honest, everything I always feel like the apologies, but the first memory that comes to mind that I can think of at the moment is when Max got the 20-second braking penalty at Saudi. Everyone knows it should have been a black flag for driving standards because you're brake checking. The 20 seconds was added after the race because of the reaction to his driving standards. I'm like a penalty. There should be no there shouldn't be a retroactive punishment if you think someone is abhorrently driving because there's people's safety on the line. I just think it's for show.
But do you think to stop the K-Mag kind of driving, obviously we've been told it's entertainment, it's hard racing, but then you give Carlos Sainz a penalty for his move on Piastri. Do you think that maybe they've got to do something to stop this almost silliness? They've opened that door, they've got to try and close it somehow.
But the standard's already been set, hasn't it? Like, excuse me, that weekend the standard already been set. So the Carlos Sainz thing was Carlos got punished for the outcome of the move. But if you look at everything that was happening at turn 11, the entire weekend with K-Mag, with Checo, even with Oscar Alapa too earlier, it wasn't great racing, but all that push him off the track as far as possible had been allowed. Carlos Sainz was a victim of McLaren pit Oscar because of the damage to the car. And to be honest, the majority of the reason I think they pit Oscar in that situation anyway, they didn't want to bring a safety car out to bring Max back into play with Lando. So, like it was. I feel like there's a lot of penalties That's why I feel like a lot of penalties are not based on the actual action, but they're based on the outcome of what's been caused.
Yeah, I can understand that as well. We'll move on from that. If you've got your opinions in chat, feel free to put them on. And if you're watching after we've been live, pop them in the comments down below on what you think the FIA should be doing about the reactional changes they seem to be doing. Since then, we've also seen Ferrari out testing spray guards for the new Formula One style of racing where we don't race in the wet. Ollie Behrman and Arthur Leclerc were out there. It wasn't Fernando Alonso, people. Yes, it had 14 on the car, but it was not Fernando Alonso before anybody jumps the gun. Arthur Leclerc and Ollie Behrman were out there. They don't seem that keen. They seem very back to the drawing board, I think Behrman's words were. What were your thoughts on them, Roger? Apart from pieces of plastic stuck across the wheels.
It was a wet run on a dry track. Like
they did soak some of the track.
Yeah, but like is what it is. Honestly, that is what it is. How do you feel about it?
I think they looked ridiculous. I think we should grow some balls and get on with it. Personally, I understand the safety side of things, but honestly, they've just. I mean, what you can, if you look at what they've designed, yeah, great, yeah, I can see what you're trying to do. But how do you change? How do you do a pit stop? Do you have to uncouple it off, change the tires, and then put it back on? It's a huge added complication. When actually, where's the spray coming from? The floors. The spray is actually coming because the floors are generating so much power and putting the water, dispersing the water in the air. So the tires actually don't have a huge amount to do with it. So yeah, I think go back to drawing board, walk on. Maybe look at the tires and make sure that we can actually grip in the wet. If there's grip in the wet, then we can race in the wet. Visibility is only a problem because they don't feel like they're in 100% control of the car, to be fair. Another piece of news which we had out, which has come out in the last few days, is Alex Albon has signed a multi-year deal with Williams. I think, personally, good idea. There's not a lot of other places Albon could have gone. I don't think Mercedes would have chased him down. So what is your thoughts on Albon staying at Williams and the added rumour that Toto Wolff is trying to put Ocon in there as well?
Clearly, everyone's like, well, he clearly believes in the Williams project, but I'm with you. Where, sorry, excuse me. I'm with you. Where is he going? Both Ferrari seats are taken, I believe, till like at this moment in time, 2027.
Yeah.
Mercedes have George locked in, and for all intents and purposes, Toto is twerking for Max like a woman of the night, or a man of the night, whichever floats your boat. So that's that. And the Red Bull seat, he's never going to go back to Red Bull, given how acrimoniously it sort of ended. Yeah, he could have got a couple of podiums, but he was never there. So where it's more a case of he's been very quick in the Williams. I think he's found a home in the Williams. The expectation isn't great in the Williams, but also there's nowhere for him to go either. So it works with both parties. How about yourself?
As I say, I think best place he can go. It's a big confidence boost for Williams, but also we all know how contracts work. You can sign for 3 or 4 years and still be in a Mercedes next season if you wanted to be. I think Albon knows what's the game is. He's now got security. And if he really does get an offer off a big team, I'm sure in his contract it says he can go. So I don't see a huge disadvantage for either side in this, apart from it just takes another seat off the grid in this very early silly season. Let me just have a quick flick through. The only other big piece of news I think that's come from Formula One over the last since we've last filmed was the movement to Ferrari of Jerome D'Ambrosio and I forgot his other name. Bear with me. Just need to scroll back here. It was Jerome D'Ambrosio and Sierra. So 2 guys from Mercedes, Luke Sierra and Jerome D'Ambrosio. 1 for engineering, 1 for management side. Bit of a strange move as Jerome has only just sort of started his management career. You know, he did Formula E, where he went and worked for Venturi after he drove for Mahindra. Then he's moved to Mercedes alongside Toto Wolff. And now he's at Ferrari as basically assistant team boss. It's one hell of a transformation. And I mean, obviously he wasn't a top driver in Formula One, but has done very well in many other series. Are we looking at... I can only see it as he has done a really good job at Mercedes and impressed so many people that rumours have gone round and Ferrari have wanted to grab him.
I don't know, because I feel like who is it that came in? I've forgotten the guy's name from last year. All my days, the Dutch guy. He was at AlphaTauri. De Vries. Yeah. I feel like this is a De Vries situation where he's never really had his opportunity. He's gone off, done okay at other formulas, and he's there for it's an experienced driver to have for sort of testing and setup, rather than I think ever getting a seat in Formula One.
The thing is, he's not going for a seat now. He's going for a management position.
Yeah, but okay. Why can we not hire the best managers for the best people?
Well, that's what I'm wondering. Has he done such a good job in the paddock that people have gone, hang on a minute, we didn't think about maybe having Jerome? And obviously, Ferrari aren't going to want somebody who's going to upset the apple cart. At the moment, they've got a very good team boss in there doing pretty well. Speaking of Nick de Vries, just before you move on, currently 25th in a 22-car series in Formula E.
Yeah, well,
you're setting records again, de Vries.
That man's confidence is totally shot, isn't it? Like let's be totally honest. Like it's just That's the. But this is what confidence and stuff does. That's why Latifi's gone completely from the sport and gone into business management instead, because he's just mentally broken him. And De Vries wasn't a bad driver either. It's just totally ruined him. But no, I don't trust D'Ambrosio in a management situation or anything. Let's see. It's Ferrari in it, so anything's possible with Ferrari. Dave will be technical director by the end of the year if Ferrari had a situation.
If Maranello want to sign me up, I'll go as soon as I can leave the house. But in general terms, that is pretty much most of the news covered pretty quickly, obviously, so we don't want to leave you sitting here. There's no extra news on Adrian Newey before anybody else thinks about it. There's no other major stories apart from one which will come up in this next part, which is the history of Imola. Now, we're going to the Emilia Romagna Grand Prix. I know for myself, it will always be the San Marino Grand Prix. Probably the same for Wajid.
Yep.
It's always been the San Marino race. In World Touring Cars, it was a race of San Marino. So it's not like it's just down to Formula One. But we have a circuit which has changed slightly over the years, but still basically the same shape, and is currently along the lines of almost 5 kilometers long, just over 3 miles, 19 turns. And the quickest lap is a 1 minute 15.4 by Lewis Hamilton in 2020. Now, we have had some changes to the circuit for this weekend. I think only positive changes, but it's hands down. They've put gravel in. Yes. Exit of majority of the corners that didn't have gravel in the first place. So I'm thinking Acqua Minerale. Sorry, go on.
I find it ironic that they put gravel at Acqua Minerale when there was always gravel at Acqua Minerale before the change.
Yeah. But if you notice with things like F1 tracks where they've put, gravel was a devil. And now they're bringing it back. Says everything. I'm just going to grab the picture here so I can see exactly. There's asphalt runoff has been removed at the top of Piratella, where track limits were huge. Acqua Minerale, the asphalt runoff has been reduced, bringing in more gravel. So there is a bit of a runoff there, which I can kind of understand. And on the exit of Grassini, it's not Grassini. It was what was it called? Variante Alta.
Variante Alta.
Yeah. They've put gravel on the exit of that, so you can't run wide. Who would have thought it? Gravel to slow cars down from running wide and taking advantage.
And who'd have thought you get punished for your mistake as the quote unquote 22 best drivers on the grid getting punished for their mistakes? What a fun concept.
I just don't know where they thought this up, but anyway,
Liberty Media making great moves. What can I say?
It's the first time we've ever said that. Anyway, looking at the 2000, where has my results gone? Let me just find it. 2023. There we go. We've got it here. So last season we had a planned race. Oh yes, of course. How stupid of me. We did get to Imola, but we never actually had a Grand Prix because of the horrific floods which were in the region, actually flooding the paddock. Trucks were stuck on the start-finish line while they're trying to put things together. So, unsurprisingly, we don't have last year's results. What we can do is go back to 2022, which was a race of damp conditions, if I remember rightly. Am I thinking of the right one?
No, that wasn't that 2021.
Sorry, that was of course, that was 2021 because we had Lewis going off and still
Lewis
finishing second.
Yeah, because he got pushed off the track, went a lap down, then they brought the safety car, and then people got angry at the safety car rules because it brought him back in, and then he did a last to first challenge.
So in 2022, Max Verstappen obviously took the sprint victory. We move on to a race. Max Verstappen took the victory. Sergio Perez was second. Lando Norris was third. Valtteri Bottas did a good job in the Alfa Romeo to get fifth. And we had only two retirements, which were with two Spaniards. Sainz spinning on the opening lap. I think he got run into by Daniel Ricciardo and Fernando Alonso. And I seem to remember in that race, Mick Schumacher breaking his front wing on the start-finish line as well. But anyway, it was a bit of a chaotic race. Safety cars helping people out. But the one thing I will say is it's always been a good track for McLaren. Now, McLaren have always been synonymous with Ayrton Senna. And Ayrton Senna, obviously, the 30th year of the... it is the 30th year of the anniversary of the death of Ayrton Senna and a Roland Ratzenberger. You know, we never know where Senna may have gone, but the president of the circuit at Emilia, who was Giancarlo Minardi, the owner of the Minardi team, he was coming out recently saying, Senna said to me, when we get to Fangio's record, he wanted to sign for somebody like Minardi and bring him up from the back, which I think would have been a story and a half. But yes, we have to get in there. 30 years since Senna and Roland Ratzenberger, who had, you know, two completely different stories. Senna coming through from Brazil, getting a lot of backing because he was the next big hope, you know, the highly skilled, etc. Whereas Roland Ratzenberger had to come from a very deprived background in terms of his racing. He didn't know about racing. He got a job at a racing school, worked his way through racing anything and everything, and actually came through the Eddie Irvine, Ralph Schumacher, Japan side of things. So we have to mention that in there. But McLaren, very good around this circuit, aren't they, Wajid?
Yeah, they've had a history of being very, very good around the circuit, as you sort of alluded to with the whole Senna thing. Obviously, he lost his life in the Williams. I still think that the was it the COVID trophy, the one where they put the diamond in the corner for where he passed away. I still think that's one of the best trophies they've ever sort of produced. I think everyone sort of knows the story of Ayrton. The famous quote, if you see a gap as a driver and you don't go for a gap, you're no longer a racing driver. He was ready to risk it all. People forget that 94 Williams wasn't great, and it was him driving the wheels off the thing, which was putting him in the race with Schumacher and the Benetton. And you know, like obviously there will be sort of very, very big. I think they're planning a very big sort of celebration to represent the 30 years. And I think what a lot of people also don't remember is when Ratzenberger lost his life the day before, Senna was vocally calling that the race should be cancelled. Like, Senna was one of the very few drivers that was openly saying, this race should be cancelled. Let's just move on. Is what it is. And they continued. And then obviously the tragic events happened the next day. In terms of McLaren, I'm very interested to see how the upgrade package that they brought into Miami works in a sort of more conventional racetrack. And if the upgrades are as good as they say they are, then could there be a title race?
Ooh, I don't know. I mean, we said it after Miami. Don't expect suddenly McLaren to come from nowhere. But you just never know with Imola. It's not a circuit renowned for overtaking. But so if McLaren can get the speed which we think these changes have given them, you just never know whether they could hold off somebody like Max and people like that, which we've got to throw in Max there. Obviously, not a terrible weekend at Miami. I know people blow it up as something big, but he still finished second. He was still pretty quick. He was still on pole, still won the sprint, still walked away with most points. It's not the end of the world for Red Bull. But does this is one thing I really want to sort of kind of jump on, which is not just Imola history, but sort of Formula One as a whole. Max Verstappen did a live stream with the Red Line crew that he is part of, and suddenly realised that the Nürburgring 24-hour iRacing event is this weekend, which he is still going to take part of. Does this show something towards almost a disregard of the series, of Formula One, of, you know, you've got a Grand Prix weekend to concentrate on, but you will do all your interviews and then you're not even going to go get you know, we remember the days where Schumacher might fly back to Italy and do a load of testing in between qualifying and on simulators or anything like that. He'd, you know, they'd send, currently what they do is get the third driver to do all the stuff on Friday night. Quite often Schumacher, Barrichello would fly back and do that. Max Verstappen's literally going to go on iRacing and do a race around Nürburgring in the 24 hours. Is that a disregard to Formula One as a whole?
Well, no, because he's got a car that's 3 seconds quicker than everyone else. He doesn't. What is there to test when you know you have by far and away the quickest car on the grid? It's like the 2020 DAS Mercedes. It's like the F2000. It's like the F2002. And that's obviously before they changed the testing regulations and you could throw money or whatever. Right? When you have the quickest car, on the grid, when it is an open secret that the machine is tailored to your driving standard, the more the season goes through, why do you have to test anything when you've got an entire team built around, when you have an entire racing team built around you? Why do you have to test anything?
Yeah, I mean, for me, I know how serious a lot of people take these 24 hours. I've done a few at Daytona. I haven't done the Nords one. Won't be doing it this weekend. You know, it takes a lot of planning, a lot of effort. Even in his team, he's got a lot of drivers who are esports drivers, so it's very focused for them. And fair play to him for going to back them up. But let's say he's had a bad weekend, you know, qualifying hasn't gone well. It's mine. Yes, it can be a switch off, but it can also then, if he goes into the iRacing and drives really aggressively because he's angry or whatever, he's ruining it for all them. It's a difficult one.
It's not, because this comes down to Red Bull as the team. Is Max Verstappen and Jos Verstappen have the back and Helmer market and be calling a lot of shots. He didn't get reprimanded for anything in 2021 for what he said and stuff like that. They've obviously had a very dominant car for 2022 and 2023. He's openly criticized. Where I will defend Max is openly criticized. He doesn't care about the show and bravado, about F1, about Liberty Media. He doesn't care for all that. He just wants to he's just a racing driver. He just wants to come to the racetrack, race, go home, and do some more racing and play FIFA. That's where I respect Max. But if the iRacing is such an issue, Red Bull need to step in. We all know how good Max is as an iRace driver. It's out there how well he ranks and stuff like that. If it's such an issue, Red Bull should put their foot down. They're not going to, because they don't want to offend Max. And to be perfectly honest, Max doesn't need to do it. Max doesn't need to do anything, because even on an off weekend last week, they're still the second quickest car in the grid. So what worse comes to worse, he finishes second. He knows he's not challenging his teammate. He knows his teammate's not challenging him for the world title. That's already one rival there. If the McLaren upgrade is as good as it is, and I think Ferrari. I think whatever Ferrari say, their upgrade should work better on a track because Miami, as I said, Miami is it's a total sort of one-off sort of thing. If the Ferrari and the McLaren are much closer to the Red Bull, and Max believes he's in a genuine title fight, then he'll probably knock the ice racing on the head for a bit while he tries to race for a world title. While he races for a world title, at this moment in time, I think he's not finishing in Australia and he's still 33 points clear. Like if Max had won in Australia, there'd be an extra 25 points. No one would be having this conversation at all.
Yeah, I mean, I've got to say with the whole thing, I think yes, this seems to be the way he represents Formula One. You know, the world champion is meant to represent Formula One. Sebastian Vettel was okay at it until he sort of actually wasn't a world champion. Now he represents Formula One really well. But when he was actually world champion, him going off to events and representing Formula One as a brand didn't really happen. Lewis is really good at it. You know, we know he goes off. He doesn't go off as Formula One world champion. He goes off as Lewis Hamilton, and he represents Formula One in that kind of way. Schumacher was pretty good at it as well.
Sorry, just the Lewis thing. I think Lewis is at a point now where he's bigger. His name is bigger than F1.
Yeah,
I think Lewis. Everyone knows Lewis as. I think even if Max is the world champion, I think as long as Lewis Hamilton's on the grid, Lewis Hamilton is still the, regardless of what people want to believe. And you know, you could send for me all you like. I believe Lewis Hamilton's face is still synonymous with this current crop of Americans and things like that. It's Lewis Hamilton is F1.
Let's throw that one very quickly. Andretti, you don't bring value to the sport. If that was Hamilton racing, they're straight in, aren't they?
Yep. There's not even it's not even a question. You got this,
which is surprising because Andretti has been such a big name in Formula One in the past.
Yeah, but they're not they're not statistically the most successful driver to ever walk the sport, are they?
True. Michael's didn't quite, one podium and then he left after that. We won't go into. We will get into that. Yeah, Carl Benglinger might be having PTSD of Michael Andretti after colliding with him about 4 first laps in a row back in 1993. But anyway, so that is kind of it's a difficult one with Max. You know, for me, yes, that's how he does his representation of the sport. But I do feel it's a bit of a disregard to the weekend. I know you've got a quick car, etc., but I just think your eyes should be fully on the weekend. Speaking of the weekend, we're going to go on to predictions now. Now, we're not quite doing it like we have previously and keeping a full-on score because we can't always guarantee that we're going to get these shows out. Real life happens. So we're still going to do a similar kind of thing. So, Wajid, we don't have a sprint this weekend. So it's top 3 in qualifying, top 3 in the race, or we could go top 5 if you want, because the top 3 is pretty repetitive these days.
We'll go top 5.
We'll go top 5. So we'll go top 5 in qualifying and the race, and then we'll come up with some kooky predictions between the two of us. So we'll go with qualifying first.
So I'm gonna go reverse. So I'm gonna say Checo 5th. I'm gonna say Carlos Sainz 4th. Lando 3rd, Max 2nd, Charles Leclerc 1st.
Okay, so I'm just going to bring them up for everybody to see on the screen. So Wajid's predictions. 5th was Perez. 4th was... Go on.
4th was Carlos.
Sight.
Third was Lando.
Lando.
2nd was Max. And first was Charlie.
Verstappen, and first Leclerc. So we'll pop that straight up along. Oh, that was meant to go along the bottom. That
Okay,
didn't quite work.
don't worry about it. It's a work in progress, people.
Yeah. For myself, I am just going to hide that for a minute so that we can't. So I can. There we go. If I click that button, it will bring up all of the below. So I think quality predictions for myself. Oh, this is going to be a difficult one. I should really have got this set up first, but anyway. We're going to have fifth on the grid will be Piastri. Fourth on the grid will be Norris. I think third on the grid will be Sites. And then I think I'm pretty much the same as you from there. So we've got Wajid saying Perez, Sites, Norris, Verstappen, and Leclerc on pole position. I've got Piastri. I was going to say Perez. Piastri, Norris, Sites, Verstappen, and Leclerc. So no Perez in the top 5 for me. I think it's going to disappear.
Four of our 5 are pretty much the same, and to be honest, even our orders are very, very similar.
Well, yes, we do. We are expecting a very similar thing to happen. Next up, we will move on to our race predictions. If you have any quality predictions or race predictions, pop them in the chat. We can bring them up on screen as well. Top 5 for your race prediction.
First order again, so I'm going to go. Yeah, I was about to do the dreaded Mercedes curse of last year, but I forgot how dire that car is in a straight line, so that's not happening. I'm gonna go Lando in 5th. I'm gonna go. My top 5 is going to be the same as my qualifying 5, except it's going to be a different order. So I'm gonna go Lando in 5th. I'm gonna go Carlos Sainz in 4th. I'm gonna go Checo 3rd, Leclerc 2nd, Max 1st.
You've just done that, so I have to do more typing. Like a football one I was on the other day. I put my team out, and then they said completely keep swapping the wingers on each midfield striker force. I was like, oh, come on. My race prediction. Ooh. Now, I think we have got rumours of rain as well to throw out there. So that does come into account. Helps if I spell my own name right. So I'm going to go 5th is going to be. Ooh, I'm gonna keep that one quiet for a second. So 4th is going to be Perez. I think 3rd is going to be Leclerc. I think Verstappen 2nd, and I'm going to have Lando Norris winning the Grand Prix.
You've got a McLaren back to back. You got a Lando Norris back to back.
I have, and that is my race predictions.
No way.
Yeah, the AlphaTauri RB Toro Rosso always goes well around here.
Danny Rick.
So I'm going to have Danny. I was debating Rick or Yuki, and I'm going to go Danny Rick's going to have a. He did get podium in a Renault around here.
Yes, but one I would have gone Yuki, given how they both raced on the Sunday. But okay, fair play. I thought you were going to go for the Mercedes curse, to be honest. So
We do have a prediction in here. Thank you, Tom Bland, for joining us. I've got a feeling it's not going to happen. Thank you for the suggestion, Tom, but I'm not sure on that one.
You never know.
And of course, we can have our little kooky predictions. So, have you got any that come off the top of your head, Wajid, in terms of who's going to be getting a good result this weekend, bad results?
Both Mercedes to finish outside the top 10.
Wow. Okay. I mean, to be honest, they weren't great round here last year, so I think they got lapped the year before they got lapped. So I'm going to say that I think there's going to be a double point score for AlphaTauri Toro. So
Clearly,
yeah. I mean, if Ricciardo's getting fifth, Yuki's not going to be far behind, I think, after this season. I also think that we're going to see an Alex Albon point score.
I think K-Mag is going to drive someone into a gravel trap.
We said kooky predictions, not real predictions, not what we thought was going to happen. I think we'll go with a final one of. We've got gravel in new places around here. We're going to see a safety car, aren't we?
Yeah, we are.
Yeah.
In fairness, my prediction was going to be there's going to be a situation where we need a safety car, and the FI is going to wait as long as possible.
Yeah, most likely. So to throw it back out to everybody, our qualifying predictions: Wajid has gone Perez, Sainz, Norris, Verstappen, Leclerc as a top 5 in reverse order. I've gone Piastri, Norris, Sainz, Verstappen, Leclerc. And in the race, we've got Norris, Sainz, Perez, Leclerc, and probably a dominant Verstappen win, I guess. And for myself, Ricciardo, Perez, Leclerc, Verstappen, and Norris. I hope I'm wrong, and we might see some Mercedes mixing it up there, but it's just very highly unlikely right now. But whatever happens, hopefully you've enjoyed this preview. If you want to, if you're watching this afterwards, pop any predictions you've got in the comments below there on YouTube. Obviously, this won't be on Twitch as well because you can't comment after it's been live. But over on YouTube, if you can subscribe and watch as much of these as you can, because we want the watch time and it's going quite well. But Wajid, thank you for joining us for the preview.
Thank you for having me as always.
And thank you everybody for watching. We will be back live next week for obviously a review of the Emilia Romanga Grand Prix. And in the meantime, keep your eye on the YouTube channel because we will be, obviously this has been a half an hour show. I will split it up into videos and you can all watch the bits you want to watch rather than everything else. Hopefully, if the kids don't get in the way. I know I've promised this for years.
Slow progress. We're getting there.
We're getting there. Yes, we are. Thank you all for joining us, and we will see you next time for Emilia Romanga for F1, and maybe we'll be reviewing something else along the way. Bye.